Okay, I think we'll give everyone just a quick second to get in, and then we'll get started. We'll just get started now. So thank you everyone for coming to our panel session for the health tech track. And just before we get started with some questions for our panelists, I'll just take a bit of time to introduce the panelists we have here today. So first we have Halder, who is currently a postdoctoral fellow at the Biometrics Lab at the University of Calgary, and he's currently working with Bayesian networks in order to model healthcare data. I'll hand it off to Akshat to introduce our second panelist.
Yeah, thanks, Sunny. Another one of our panelists joining us today is Hannah, who is currently completing her master's in biomedical engineering at the University of Toronto. Hannah has experience at multiple major tech corporations, such as Cisco and LinkedIn, and also has demonstrated a strong interest in the biotech field with her master's degree, as she was able to plan the FDA approval pathway for a novel mental health medical device. And yeah, those are two speakers for today. Sunny, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, we'll just give questions a second to come in, and then once we have them, then we'll get started. Okay, I think we do have one question in the Q&A box right now. So if either of you guys want to go first, take it away.
Hannah, you can go.
Sure. So the question in the chat is, what's the most fulfilling part of your work, and what pushes you to continue along the path that you're on? So I think personally, like, I was interested in healthcare from a young age, but I didn't really have like any experience with health technology in general until I first did my internship at a technology company called Cisco. And I was working with like the public sector there, and that's where I got to work on a partnership with CAMH, which is a mental health institution here in Toronto, and really just be able to see how we could use the technology that was being offered at Cisco to kind of help augment some of the goals at CAMH to help their mental health patients and have online consultations using technology. So it's really the first experience that I got to see where technology can be used to augment healthcare. And that's kind of where I got interested in the health tech space. And then I went on to sort of join some other neurotech initiatives in school at the time in undergrad. And then that's why I ended up joining biomedical engineering in my master's. So I think really the most fulfilling part is just being able to see the impact that it can make on people's lives, and just being able to use technology like for the greater good, and being able to be involved in healthcare from a different perspective, because a lot of people think healthcare is limited to just, you know, being a doctor or a nurse or specifically working in that healthcare environment, but you can really have a really important impact on a different set of environment as well. And so I think that's kind of what is really fulfilling for me, and what pushes me to continue along is really just my interest in technology and in neuroscience specifically. So just being able to bridge the two together has been really fulfilling so far, and I'm really excited to see where my career will take me from there.
Yeah, to me, I agree with the part of to help people. It's something that it's very fulfilling, and that is, I can say that not right now in my postdoc, but even my master's and Ph.D, where I worked with mammography, and like detect lesions on those images, and it's like you can help somebody, you know, could be your parent, could be any relative of yours, and this is really good. I'm not saying that other research is not going to help other people in some way, but it does. But I think working with healthcare data, it's more close, you know. You see that it's pretty close when you see like an image, like in my case, a mammography image, and we see some lesion in that image, and we know that lesion, it's malignant, and it's like, oh my gosh, this came from somebody, you know. It's like, it's a human part that's it's there in your computer in front of you. And yeah, the first part is this, help people, directly help people. This is very fulfilling to me. This is something that makes me try to cross the boundaries, to push some boundaries and so on. And the other thing is to do research. Doing research, discover new things, doing something that nobody did before you. This is something very nice, you know. It's like when we, I guess Hannah probably share the same opinion. When we publish a paper, it's like your name is there, you know, and it's gonna be there forever. Of course, nobody could read your paper. Let's say it's something that you publish, but it's not going to attract that much audience, but it's there, you know. Your name is there forever. So your contribution for the science, for the society is there. So it's very cool.
Okay, I think there's another question that's a little bit similar to the last one. If you guys want to just, I guess, to kind of like elaborate on it.
Sure, yeah. So I think I kind of talked about this in my previous answer, where I was talking about how I first got exposed to that one project at Cisco. But really, like when I was able to kind of see like that project, I then looked for like more initiatives within my campus. And I just sort of spoke to a lot of people who were in that, so who were basically in biomedical engineering, and found out like, are there any ways where I can join? Because at the time, like I wasn't doing my undergrad in engineering. And so I really wanted to be able to kind of bridge like my interest in healthcare and technology together. So I just spoke to a lot of like upper year students, and a lot of people actually who were already in the field too. So a couple of people that were working for like different medical device companies, for example. And that just like being able to hear from them what their experiences were like and what they kind of liked about the field in general is basically what kind of pushed me even more forward to go and pursue that field. So that interest kind of started off with just being able to see that one project through my internship, but then really just being able to actually speak to people who were more experienced than I was at the time in these different sort of roles and environments really is what inspired me to kind of go into that field. And then the kind of second part of that question says, has health tech been what you expected it to be? And I think it's actually like been more than what I expected it to be, because there's so many different like possibilities of basically like what kind of research you can do or what kind of work that you can do in this space. Like it's a really, I wouldn't say it's new, but it's like it's still growing a lot. So there's still a lot of new things that are happening in the health tech space. And so I think that's part of what makes it so exciting, is that you don't know what you might be doing like 5 years from now per se. So even just like in my program, we got to like speak to a lot of different startups and kind of just have like experience working on different projects where we were able to kind of see a lot of the innovation that's happening in the health tech space right now. And I think that really made it really exciting. And it definitely like exceeded what I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, to me, I did go directly to the healthcare field. In my undergrad, I started doing research in my undergrad course, and back on that time, I was working with OCR, which stands for optical character recognition. So it's basically when you scan a book or any handwriting things on a page of a notebook, it's a system that you can work on that image in order to extract the letters, the words there, right? So this was my first contact with research. And it was very cool because I was working with image processing and also machine learning. This is something that I was start to learn back on that time. And when I start my master's, and the first time that I talked with my advisor at that time, the one that would be my advisor, he presented to me all the research he was doing on using mammography and this kind of stuff. And I say, okay, it seems cool, right? Because it's healthcare. You are dealing with patients with data from people. It's cool. But what got me on that time was like, okay, it's still image processing, it's still machine learning stuff, so that's okay, I can do it, right? But there is a whole thing behind it. It's not just like the technical part, it's the part where you are helping people. So this was what got me more excited about doing this in this job. And for sure, at the beginning, and of course, after finished my PhD, when I got the proposal to do this postdoc and like Bayesian networks on that time, I say, okay, Bayesian networks, I remember by the name, but I never worked with. But still, it's a lot of different sort of data, so it's a big jump, but it's pretty interesting, it's very satisfying. And we don't know actually where we will be, because we are guided by the trends in the research field we are on, right? So the things change from time to time. For example, when I start my master's, we barely heard about deep learn, this kind of deep convolutional neural networks. We heard some of them, but it's still distance, you know. But nowadays, everything is about deep learn. So it's mostly the trend, and we follow the trend because it's research, and we want to be, let's say, ahead of the competition. Right?
Super great answers. Thank you so much. Okay, there's one that just came in. I think this one's a little bit different. This is more for the student themselves. You guys want to take a look at that one?
Okay, so where do you think HealthTech will go in the foreseeable future? As an incoming grade 11 student, I've been thinking about going into the field because I find it really interesting, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to find employment opportunities after post-secondary. So that's an interesting question. I mean, as like both Helder and I said, there's a lot of like new things that are happening within the health tech field. So definitely like there are a lot of like what we see right now, you're going to have like even more possibilities by the time you graduate from post-secondary. And it really like depends on what kind of role you're looking to go into. Like, for example, a lot of people do end up staying in academia. So if you were interested in that, like there's obviously a lot of opportunities for there. But there's also a lot of like biotechnology startups that are starting right now, and like being able to, they're always looking for people that are like straight out of post-secondary as well. So there's opportunities to join in that space. It kind of depends on like which role you end up looking for, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities for like engineers per se, or people who are experts in machine learning and AI, people on the design side, and then also just people on the research side too. So like a lot of people on our team right now at work are just like scientists who come and they're focusing on that space. So there's a lot of opportunities for that. So it really depends on like which avenue you want to go into, but I don't think you need to worry too much about like not being able to find employment. I definitely think like being able to go to events like this already is like kind of setting you apart from other high school students. Like if you're in grade 11 attending this, you already kind of are ahead of the game, being able to think about what you want to do in the future. And so just start networking like really early on. When you do end up joining post-secondary, like go speak to a couple of different profs, speak to like people who are already working as well, and upper years. And that way you'll be able to kind of find out like what really where your interests lie into, and just being able to have that network will kind of help you once you finish to find the jobs too. So I definitely think you'll be like on the right track for that.
Yeah, I think the health tech is gonna be, well, the COVID pandemic showed us a lot of stuff, right? Like, for example, the need for a vaccine, and these need to be fast, right? It's not like something that we can wait for 10 years until have a vaccine for something, right? And like another problem from the point of view of image analysis, this kind of stuff, COVID shows that there are so many pulmonary disease, infectious disease, that it's pretty hard to the doctors to detect, right? So it's there are so many directions that you can go, and for these students and for others that I think that are thinking about to get into the health tech field, I really don't think it's a waste of time, because you know, the pandemic again show up a lot of issues that exist in this system right now, you know, and there is always need for people to help with something, to develop some methods, some machine learning algorithms to detect something faster with higher precision, and doesn't need to be 100% precise, just need to be a little bit over the previous ones, you know. So there is space for everybody, and in many fields. A couple of days ago, I was reading a paper about the estimation of born age. You know, it's something that I never heard about. I never thought about this thing, but there's there are some people doing research in this field. So it's really up to what do you want to do? I think this is the biggest question. What catch your attention? You know, what fulfill you? Because this is something that you are going to do, and if you are happy with that and you are motivated to work on that field, we're going to be very successful. And as Hannah mentioned, talk to your professors or come to the university, talk to some of the professors there, you know, knock at some doors and look at, for example, the University of Calgary, look at the web page, look for some professors that work in that field that you are interested, you know, talk to that professor, ask, of course, it's a biased opinion because they are working in that field, so they are going to say you just the good things, but anyways, talk to them, and some of them will be open to have you as a, let's say, a summer student, you know, in the lab to you follow up some other students to develop some research, so you get use of the job, how it's going to work, and you can try, if not have that commitment, you know, you can try and see if you really like that field or not.
Okay, I think our next question is more of a general one. It's just about advice for a student that I guess you kind of learned along your way, along the way to where you are now.
Sure. I think like what Helder was talking about in the previous question about like working for something that you're passionate about, that's like definitely probably one of the best advices that you can get. But in addition to that, I think also just be open to new experiences. Like right now, you might be interested in health tech, but maybe when you enter university or when you meet some new people, you might be interested in another industry altogether, or perhaps like a certain sector of health tech that maybe you aren't even looking at right now. So I think just being open to different experiences and just allowing yourself to grow and to learn and kind of figure it out on the way is something that's helped me a lot. So going into university, like in my first year undergrad, I don't think I would have told anyone that I'm planning to do my master's in biomedical engineering afterwards. I think that's something that I really discovered that I was interested in as I was going through my university experiences and as I was interning with these different companies. And honestly, like the first internship that I even got wasn't through like a traditional application. It was something that someone just came and told me that there was a competition going on in university, like a pitch competition. And they just told me to apply. And so I applied and I ended up like, I didn't win the competition, but I got into contact like with this person at Cisco. And that's kind of how I got my journey started with my first internship. So I think if I hadn't like said yes to that opportunity back then, I don't know if I would be like here right now in this sector. So I think that just being open to your different opportunities and just being able to kind of not have that closed mindset when you're entering university or regardless of like what stage you're at right now, I think is really important so that you can kind of go wherever you're meant to go. Yeah.
Yeah, my first advice, it's, as I said before, do whatever you like, because if you do what you like, you are going to do that work very well, much better than that person that choose that field just because earn more money or something like that, you know, or because like my father told me to do that, you know. People who are, let's say, child of a medical doctor not actually can be a good doctor, you know. But if you do what you like to do, you are going to be very successful. Yeah. And well, as Hannah again mentioned, have the mind open. Sometimes you are going to see something, somebody will propose you something that you never thought about, but at least take a look. Do not ignore, do not say no right away. Ask for some time to think about it, you know. But that thing that you never imagined could be the thing that will catch you for the rest of your life. You know?
Really interesting answers. I guess this might just end up being a very similar answer to the last question, but like, what's the biggest lesson or failure you've learned from along your way to success?
Sure. So I think something that I kind of did wrong in my first few years at undergrad was try and like do everything myself. So I moved here to Toronto from Edmonton, and I was like, didn't know anybody at the campus, and I kind of just went into like my classes and tried to like kind of figure everything out by myself. So I wasn't really like doing all those things that I told you in the previous answer, like trying to talk to profs or networking or figuring out like what are my opportunities after postgrad. So I think like the first semester, really, like I was really like not trying to seek out help or advice from other people. I was kind of trying to just do everything myself and figure out things by myself. And I think that can sound like it's like not that big of a problem. Like, okay, yeah, you're just being independent. But really, you're kind of like closing yourself off from so many different opportunities and so many different connections that could help you out in the future. So I think although like it didn't harm me in any way, I think it kind of closed me off from a lot of things that then I ended up finding like later throughout the year. And then in my later years, when I did end up speaking to people and like saying yes to all these opportunities, like I said in the past. And I think that is really where I was able to kind of find out about different fields and find out what my interests are. And then being able to speak to profs, finding out like what their research avenues are and like what are the options for me even after undergrad. So I think all of that kind of only came into fruition when I started seeking out help and when I started kind of networking with people around me. So I think that is definitely like another lesson that hopefully you guys will take away, like when you are starting off. Don't try and do everything by yourself and kind of just close yourself off. Try and like get out there as much as possible so that you can both like seek advice from others, but then also just put yourself out and show others what you're capable of. And that will just open a lot of new opportunities for you.
Yeah, I guess my biggest advice is ask. Ask for everything to everybody, you know. If you get into something that you don't know how exactly do that job, for example, when I start my master's, on that time, the lab of my advisor was working with everything that was implemented in MATLAB. And I had a very short course at the beginning of my undergrad course using MATLAB, but it was just like create some vectors, plotting those vectors, this is it. And when I got into the master, it was like, okay, now you are going to load the image, you are going to create some filters, apply some filters on top of that image and extract some information from there. And well, was too much. I never have done that. So I asked a couple of people, some of them online, some of them was just close to me in the lab, so it was pretty helpful. But there were situations where I needed to understand some very abstract and hard to me mathematical method. And I have a degree in computer science, so mathematics is not my biggest thing, neither statistics. So every time that I try to do something advanced, I need to ask to somebody or read some books and something like that. But there was several times where I was studying, for example, some paper where I have no idea what the person, the author was talking about. So just shoot an email. Let's send an email, Ask, don't be afraid to ask people, because it's like, if they say no, you already have the no, So it's like, it's worth to ask, because sometimes you can get some answers that's gonna be much more than what you were expecting for.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And I think for our next question, the attendee wanted to just get a quick rundown of what an average day looks like doing research. And I believe this question was more directed towards Helder's work at the U of C.
Okay, so for some point of view, my day at work is kind of boring, because it's basically sitting in a chair, reading something, and this something could be some scientific papers or some books to understand better classical methods, some approach or something, And the idea is to learn what people have done in such a way that you are going to start to have some ideas to develop your own work, to make it better compared to the other ones. So my day, it's just be sat in front of the computer, reading, and not only reading. Most of the time I spend writing code, because there are some methods that are too complicated to do manually, and to be honest, I don't like to do any calculation manually, because it's prone to error, and there are a couple of things behind this. But yeah, it's basically in a chair in front of the computer, reading and writing some coding, try to make it work, because for sure I can guarantee you 99.9% of the time it's not going to work at first, So you need to work, and sometimes when the code works, the result's not what you expected. So what's going on? So you go back to the paper or the book, read again, try to understand, try to Google about some specific method that you are trying to implement or use to understand what's going on. Because I can tell you, for those ones who want to follow the academic path, not all the papers tell everything, sometimes you can implement everything if you can read the paper and implement that and turn that information into code. It's not going to work, okay, most of the time, because sometimes, and I dare to say that most of the time, they are hiding some information that you cannot reproduce that result. Okay, so this is a very hard part to validate somebody else's work. But the time is changing, and people are paying attention to this kind of issue. So, well, let's hope for the best. But anyways, I fall for, I get out of the topic. But this is my day at work. Is just in front of the computer, reading, study stuff, and discuss with people if I have people nearby to discuss about. Because this is I work with some stuff that I cannot. I tell people I cannot tell to my mother, because she doesn't know 1% of what I'm doing. So this is pretty sad, but anyways, this is what happens.
Okay, that's super interesting. I think we'll give it a second just for any last questions, and then if not, I think we can wrap it up now. But yeah, we'll just give it like a minute or two.
All right. It seems that we don't have any more questions. So I guess that's going to conclude our session for today. First and foremost, we'd like to thank Helder and Hannah for sharing their experiences today. We definitely learned a lot. And I think for students that are in high school and that are transitioning into post-secondary, a lot of the tips, a lot of the experiences that were shared today will be very fruitful moving forward. So we appreciate that. We want to thank all of you for joining us today at this panel session. And we would strongly encourage you to continue joining sessions in the Discover Tech conference that we're hosting. There's a variety of topics all across Canada. So we strongly implore you guys to check those out. And yeah, if you guys do have any other questions, you guys can, I guess we have one last minute if you do, or else, yeah, once again, thank you so much.
Okay, I think that's everything. So just again, thank you guys so much for showing up. It was really great hearing about your experiences in, I guess, what is still a bit of a niche field that is a little harder to understand. So I definitely think that was really helpful to the students.
Yeah, thank you guys for the invitation. And well, I'm open to anybody who wants to send me an email or contact me some way. You can send me an email. I always reply, not at the same day, most of the time, but you know.
Yeah, same here. Thank you guys for having me on, and everyone can, I guess, contact me on LinkedIn if that works, and just ask any questions, and I'll definitely try and help out as well. And good luck to everyone for your future.
Yeah. Right. That's everything from us. So thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.